Aubrey Burch from Easy School Marketing. And today I'm going to talk about something that doesn't get discussed very often, and that is camp marketing. So why is camp marketing so important? Let's think. Well, obviously it's a way for schools to bring in additional revenue. And a lot of schools can only operate because of their camp due to the tuition gap and everything like that. So knowing that, how are we marketing our camp? What's a great way to market it? So I want to give you a few suggestions for marketing your camp and what I've found to be successful. The first is make your counselors camp marketing ambassadors. What I mean is really explain to them the importance of marketing and that marketing is actually their daily interactions with campers. They are one of the biggest reasons that a camper has a great experience or a not so great experience. So it's important for them to understand that they're like the VIPs at camp. They truly have an impact on whether or not that camp is going to be successful. So it's making sure you give them the training and the knowledge they need to go out there and make sure that the kids are connected, that they're having a good experience, and that they want to come back again next year. Because as with anything, retaining your campers for future years is much cheaper than continually having to market cold audiences to try to get them to sign up for your camp. So it's much easier to keep the ones you have. So that's our first one, is to really make your camp counselors your brand ambassadors or your marketing ambassadors. And there's a presentation I'll link to in this free presentation from one of my resources that I gave to the 16 to 24-year-old camp counselor audience that might be helpful for you. Number 2, a big mistake that I see camps making is interestingly enough, not taking advantage of sales, not taking advantage of a scarcity mindset of Black Friday and stuff like that. I have yet to see a camp that's really understood the importance of when people are buying, they're buying. A lot of camps, the registration begins in January. Well, that's all great and everything, but you're missing out on a whole holiday season of potential. Black Friday could be a tremendous way for you to enroll your camp ahead of time. So I suggest you try that. Other sales, Memorial Day, think of the places where people normally have sales and then map out your calendar. For example, when we hit Memorial Day, we know that if there is a session that is low or hasn't been filled out, that's the one we know. That's our $75 off, $100 off that particular camp program during Memorial Day. So you can think about it that way. Another way that we are testing out on Black Friday is if you are raising your camp prices, is to offer your existing people for the particular program that you're raising a Black Friday deal where they can get the program at last year's price before prices go up. It creates that scarcity mindset of if we don't do this now, we're gonna be in a tight bind later. It creates, there is a beginning and an end to that sale, over Black Friday. And if there's no end to your sale, there's no urgency, there's no factors. It's not creating that scarcity mindset of this isn't coming back. And it's not a negative thing. It's just part of marketing. It's part of advertising. It's just how everything works. That's how the brain works. So that is one of the techniques that we're trying, is that if you're raising prices, run it over Black Friday. In addition, we've seen success in the month of January of registration opening is to create some urgency around that so that you book the majority, as much as you can possibly book out in January. So that means you might run a large, a good discount on multiple sessions. So you want people to go in, buy multiple sessions so that your camp is starting to fill up in January. It's worked wonders, and I highly suggest that. So we've talked about your camp counselors being brand ambassadors. We've talked about how important it is to look through, just to think, outside the box in terms of when you should be advertising and to create that like that scarcity, that urgency, so people actually want to buy, and what times of year you might do that. And now we're going to talk about a very underused piece, which is using email to engage the people who have attended your camp the last 2 years. So it's pulling that information and then engaging them from, like, I would say November, you're sending them, like, I would even say September, you're wishing them all, like, oh, we miss you guys. We hope you're back at school having a great time. Like, maybe October, you do something interesting there with, like, around Halloween or whatever is going on, or inviting them to something on campus. We're always inviting our camp on campus anytime we have events open to the community, because that can also be a funnel to potential enrollment. Plus you want to keep them engaged. And then, November, you would have your, we're so grateful for you. Then if you're doing Black Friday, you would have that piece. So by the time, in December's holiday wishes, like maybe a slideshow from last year. And then by the time they hit January, they're warmed up. Like, you're not some stranger who came calling on the door and you're like, who is this? Oh yeah, we went to their camp last year. So by the time January hits and you're counting down the days till registration, you're sending emails, you've got a warmed up audience. And a lot of people are scared to send so many emails. They're like, oh, we're going to totally annoy people. And yes, okay, you might get a few unsubscribed. However, think about how busy the average parent is. I can't tell you how many emails I get a day, and half of them I might not read. So maybe 1 out of 5 emails might be opened by someone. You have to track your open rates and stuff. But you have to send the emails. Like, email lists are gold, so use it. So I would engage the last 2 years. Last 3 years, if they haven't come in the past 2 years, then they're probably a very cold audience and completely not engaged in your camp at all. So that is the third piece, is use your email list. And we would email like every 2 weeks, every week or two, from January through June. Okay, it's just what you have to do. Create fun videos to go there, like make it engaging and fun, really find your camp's voice. I should say that's number 4. Find your camp's voice, okay? Is your camp, like, what is it known for? Most camps I know are really fun, a little wacky. Like, if you work at a camp, you're fun, you're engaging. I mean, kids come to you to have fun. So, like, what is your voice? Like, don't use this formal voice. This is the camp, and here we go rock climbing. Like, lighten up. So all your emails should really have great copy that's very warm and inviting, that a little wacky. Like, find your camp voice, and people will convert higher because they connect with that. If you're just writing very formal, it just doesn't have the same effect. Look at some of this. I mean, you can look at some of the things you send out for school. It's very similar. Schools are notorious for writing very formal copy. And then look for a camp that maybe is not connected to a school and see if how they're writing. So really write good copy, get to know your voice. So that's number 4. And number 5 is, and this will be my final one because I could go on this forever, is to survey your campers. Well, survey their families, because you need to find, and after every session. So if you have 2-week sessions, it's at the end of every 2 weeks. If you have 1-week sessions, at the end of every week, and you offer an incentive, like maybe it's people who fill out the survey and give their names, they're eligible for $500 off camp next year. Make it an incentive that people are really like, okay, yes, I will fill out this survey. And, make sure you're asking the questions that give you the feedback you need. Like, what do you need to improve on? Did their kids have fun? What was a pain point for them? Really understand that, because that's going to help you with next year. And especially if you're having a retention problem, this will help you identify the key pieces. And then if people are giving you their names and they've given you some kind of criticism, but it's constructive criticism, I would suggest, hey, get them on the phone. I mean, they gave their name for the survey, so they're identifying themselves, and just ask them, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about this? Maybe carpool was a mess. tell me a little bit more about this. I'd love to understand a little bit more what you're thinking. It's great market research. Even the people who had glowing, like, give you glowing survey feedback, call them, like take 5 or 7 of them and call them and just get them to talk a little bit more about their experience. Use the words that they're saying in your emails that you're sending. In addition, because you've got their names and they filled out the survey, you can pull testimonials from that survey and use them on your website and in your next email sequence that will come up. So I hope this was helpful. I could talk about camp marketing all day. I want to mention that, as I did at the beginning, is that I do have a copy of the presentation that I gave to some camp counselors last year. And it was really helpful in helping them identify how they are brand ambassadors and the kind of the why behind it. Because a lot of times those teenagers and young adults, they really don't understand that. And this was one that I think was impactful for them. They actually waved to me afterwards, so I'm gonna give that a win. So I hope to hear from you. I'd love to hear about your best camp marketing secrets. And if you have any, please shoot them my way. Find me on social, LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you. Take care. Have a great day.